special guest, the strange Bobo man. This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. As always, I'm your host, Dave, and as always, with me is...
Trevor.
Hey, Trevor, how's it going?
It's good, Dave. It's just lovely to be on pod on this great evening, and feel like I got a lot of pent up podcasting to do.
Yeah, it's good. Feels good to be here. It sure has been a long weekend running.
It's been a very long weekend running.
One of those Clarence Darrow weeks that is not measured the way you think it's going to be going in. This week, I think, might have been 16 days, 17 days.
I don't even know. Yeah, at this point, it's all a blur.
Yeah,
I do know in whatever time period it was, I did not do very much actual running.
Same.
It seemed like the same things that prevented us from podcasting about running seem to have also gotten in the way of our running. At least I'll use that as my excuse.
I had a few things working against me. I was traveling for work 3 weeks in a row. I was on the road, so you gotta pay for the podcasting microphone somehow. Shout out potential future sponsor Blue.
Yeah,
microphones. So yeah,
these Blue mics aren't free.
No,
yet.
and unfortunately, this gig ain't paying the bills yet. Attention, future sponsor Bobos. But yeah, I was traveling for work 3 weeks in a row, so I did a little running on the road, but then I got kind of run down actually. Sort of a little bit sick, and so I hadn't run for almost, I don't know, 2 weeks, but I ran today.
Well, good for you. I mean, good for you for running. Good for you for running today. I had a very similar stretch on the road twice, 2 weeks in a row. Was it 2? Maybe it was 3. It was a lot for work. And then got sick on the last trip, had actually planned a very nice run. And then the morning I went to do it was just feeling too sick.
Yeah. I had a really, last week I was in the beautiful city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, again for work, staying right near the lovely Charles River, which is so wonderful to run around, and I just wasn't feeling up to it.
Yeah, I was in Miami. It was probably the perfect time of year to run in Miami. It was like 80 degrees ish, which to me it was a little bit of a shock to the system, but I think to most people objectively very nice. And I had plans to run to the Rickenbacker Bridge, and maybe it looks like there's a running path. And I sort of inquired with a few locals about this, and I think there's like a path that you can run sort of along the side, but it's a very long bridge. I wouldn't have done the whole thing, which I think like the back and forth is probably like, I don't know, 9 miles or something. But
wow, I
would have at least ventured out onto it, but nope, sick.
Nope. Well, yeah, I have to save that for next time, I suppose. The best run I think I did on my travels was a nice treadmill 10K in the hotel gym in Rockford, Illinois.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah,
great place to be on a treadmill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, the gym was nice actually. I did a regular like dumbbell workout another day there, and the dumbbells went up to 75, that's real high for a hotel.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's really nice. And I'm sure you made use of those 75ers.
I do. 75 is actually the heaviest dumbbell that I usually incorporate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I did actually use them.
I've also started some strength training. I've been going once or twice a week to a local gym and trying to work on some gaps that were identified at the Kilkenny Ridge race.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not running very actively right now, I'm still thinking a lot about running, and the work that I'm doing is very specifically geared towards eventually running better.
I'm thinking about running so much. I'm so close to signing up for the LA Marathon to make up for my not running the Richmond Marathon, which was 2 days ago. And I thought about that on that day. I was bummed.
at this point, you're on your way towards whatever it's called when you contemplate running a marathon in every state.
Yeah,
because at this point you've got Rhode Island actually ran a marathon, Virginia, Washington, and now California.
Yeah, and I've
I
thought
guess
about
include
others.
New York and Boston. I mean,
I've thought about both of those. I also considered running Raleigh, North Carolina, 2 days ago, same day as Richmond.
we talked about Philly before.
As we discussed 2 episodes ago with popular runner and popular musician Jesse Chandler, I almost ran the Cascade Express Mountain Marathon in Washington, so I've thought about that one plenty.
We still might do all of these things. I actually get a lot of joy in thinking about running too, and just planning these big things. Like I've planned several very long runs in the New England region, all the way over into the Adirondacks.
Well, that's thrilling, and you'll probably do some of them, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely could happen. I'm planning a big run because a week from today I'm planning a run because I'm gonna wake up a week from today in Paris, France.
Oh,
and so
nice.
I'm staying in Bastille. So I've mapped out a nice little run from Bastille along the Seine to around where the what's it called, the Eiffel Tower, and then back, and that's about 10K.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll see if that happens.
Well, we'll find out, I'm sure, soon on the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next long gap between episodes while I'm running around various rivers in Europe.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. I'll also be near the Thames at some point, so maybe I haven't mapped out a run around that one yet, but maybe I'll run along the Thames as well.
Might as well. Yeah. I guess I did do I remember running twice on my last trip, and once was to try to catch a boat that I was running very late for.
I like that.
And like the captain of the boat, as I came like crashing up the steps, was like, "Whoa, like slow down."
Yeah, no running on the boat there. Yeah.
Not allowed to run on this boat.
What do boat people call land people derisively?
Landlubbers?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Running. Hey, slow down, landlubber. Yeah, there's got to be. Maybe our listeners can chime in the mailbag or on a photo on Dave Rawlings' Instagram to let us know what people who live on boats call or whatever land people, us.
Yeah. And the other running I did was back and forth between gates confusedly at the airport when the screen said one thing, my ticket said another, and the actual gate was a third option. And it's initially said delayed, and then on the screens it said on time. So I did a little bit of running in the airport too.
I love airport running.
Yeah,
I always hear that song, the Christmas song that they're running to in Home Alone.
Yeah, which was that? What song was that?
I don't know what it's called. It's the one that's like dun, 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 dun,
oh yeah.
I always hear that if I'm running. One of my all-time greatest runs, and maybe the fastest I've ever run carrying 60 pounds of bags, was in the Madrid airport.
Nice.
Yeah, in Madrid, where I've twice not made a connection and been stranded for what turned out to be 24 wonderful hours. It's a gift, actually.
That's a nice gift.
I shouldn't have run so hard. Yeah, I could have made it. Yeah,
I feel like I've run with a decent amount of like ski stuff. I feel like at one point I brought my boots on the plane maybe, and we had to run through some airport with like a close connection, like a very tight connection, back when I would actually schedule a flight like that. Like I can't imagine doing that now. Like I've got to make it from like gate to gate. Like the flight has to arrive there on time, and then I've got to make it to some unknown gate in a certain amount of time. That sounds
I don't do that either. I don't think. I just had to reschedule my flight flying home from London, actually, and when changing the flight, couldn't get a direct flight. And it's all right. And so I chose the flight I went through based on the connection, which is in Lisbon, because I figured if the expected happens and so I get delayed, at least I'm stranded in Lisbon for a day, and it's somewhere I'd want to be.
Very smart. Good place to run this time of year.
Yeah, I can get a third river run. I don't even know what body of water is by Lisbon.
Yeah, river wise, I'm not sure.
Vasco da Gama fans, please chime in on the Instagram.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I have for week of running. Let's see.
Well, I had one other thing I did that was sort of like running. which is
Ooh, yeah.
like 9 days ago, 2 Sundays ago, I went to the finish line of the New York Marathon
Okay.
on behalf of the Power Motion Picnic Hour and potential future sponsor Bobos, and I handed out free Bobos and notes of congratulation to people who'd finished the New York Marathon. And I just walked around handing it out to people wearing their little orange capes, looking completely depleted. And it was a fun it's a fun experience. I'd say about, I don't know, a third of the people I approached were kind of touched and very appreciative of the little note that I gave them that said that we were proud of them.
Yep.
And then even some of them were happy about the Bobos, but mostly just about the gesture. They liked, they were discovering how friendly New Yorkers were. And then the other 2/3 did that thing that most people would do in New York, where a stranger tries to hand them something and they're like, no, I don't want anything. Like, I don't want it.
It instinctively moved past this person.
Yeah. And I was instantly reminded of when my great grandfather, who lived next door to us in the Bronx when I was a kid, when he was on Candid Camera as a very old man. And and he lived to 100. So I don't know when he was on, but I think he was in his like early 90s. And they were doing a segment where they were like in the late 70s, where they would ask people, or they were trying to see what kind of excuses people would give to not talk to you on the street. And so they walked up to him and they asked him if he had the time. And he said, no, I don't live around here. In his defense, he was deaf. Somebody and everyone in the family, or mostly deaf. So everybody in the family thought that was really hilarious when he was on TV.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Are the winner of walking division at the Power Motion Picnic Hour was also on Candid Camera, my mom, and she was like working, I forget the full story, but I think she was in a job where she was like typing. She was doing typing, possibly in the Empire State Building or somewhere in New York.
Nice.
And when you typed and like sort of transcribed something back then, I don't think you looked at the paper, you looked at what you were reading, which was like off to the side. And they had like changed all the letters on the typewriter so that when she finally looked over to see what she had typed, like it was just this like garbled mess.
Nice. They'd experimented with a non-QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it was a QWERTY keyboard that didn't align to the right letters, I think.
Huh.
Like the type, like they swapped like the wrong letters into the keyboard head or whatever it's called.
They didn't QWERTY it.
The type head.
Oh, I see. The keyboard had QWERTY, but the inside of the thing was
switched up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. I listened to, during a run about a month or two ago, I listened to a good episode of Radio Lab where they talked about the development of computer keyboards in China.
Okay.
Yeah, and the competing different types of keyboards.
QWERTY doesn't work too well there. Yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, I don't remember anything I learned.
That's cool. That's another podcast that's available to listen to.
Check out Radio Lab. It's a great podcast. For our that's one thing we do here for a lot of our listeners, our ultra marathon runners who need to load up on podcasts.
We do give them tips
to get them through. So this week's recommendation: why not try Radio Lab?
I endorse it too.
The best Radio Lab, now that we're just talking about competitors, is this episode I listened to that was recommended by a friend when they found out I had a popular running podcast. They recommended a Radio Lab episode that I wanted to talk about in the show called Man vs. Horse.
Oh, nice.
And it's about this race in the Southwest that's been going on for, I don't know, like 40, 50 years, where they try to see if it's like an ultra distance where they try to see if runners can beat a horse.
I feel like that sounds very similar to the inception story of the Western States 100 ultra marathon, which I'm sure a listener could tell us about.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So I guess, as you mentioned, this great week or this great moment in running, you weren't running, but you were congratulating runners. There were a lot of good vibes.
I was dressed like a runner. I thought that would make them less concerned that I was coming up to them.
Yeah. I dressed like a runner to one of the Power Motion Picnic Hour junior apprentices that lives with me, who I take care for, had like a fun run at his school, and I went dressed full running gear, headband. Everybody else was dressed in like street clothes, and I was like ready to run.
Yeah,
come on,
exactly. If this gets
bring in the psych.
Yeah, if you're running, you're running. I'm very binary like that too.
Yeah, but well, I guess two other things. One, I don't think I would have taken a Bobos from you either, had I not known.
No, there was at some point we walked like from 72nd Street by Gray's Papaya east towards the park, and then into the park around 72nd Street. There was an entrance. They were siphoning everyone in. From there, there were a lot of people, who finished the race that we were congratulating. Mostly just spectators watching. So then we tried to go out, and they got people siphon them out around Columbus Circle, and that's where like the jam occurred, and they hadn't thought things through apparently. But at some point there was like a runner sitting on a bench, and one thing I learned was it's much easier to give things to runners who are sitting down, because if they're at a table, you can just put it on the table. They don't have to take it. And this runner was sitting on a park bench, and so I gave it to her, but she was one of the ones who was really touched.
That's awesome.
By the gesture, and she was so happy. And people like that I talked to, and I asked them their times and how it went and things like that. And she was, I don't know, it sounded by her accent, I would say she was from northern Spain would be my guess, and somewhere in the Cantabria region perhaps. And
Cantabria,
but it could be a different, but northern Spain. And she was there with her mother, and they were like
Catalonia, even
maybe. Yeah, exactly. George Orwell territory. But her and her mother were sitting there, and they were both very touched. And then they asked me, I think it was her mother, who knows, and it could have been anyone. And they asked me to take a picture of them, and then they handed me their phone, and I remember thinking in that moment, like, don't hand the strange Bobo man your phone in a crowd in New York. But of course, I wasn't the strange Bobo man. I was the nice, friendly Bobo man. The problem is they look the same, so you don't know who you're handing your phone to. So I took like 3 pictures and handed it back, and I was like, oh, I'm glad she picked the right random person to give her phone to.
It does certainly, it demonstrates both that it's easier to hand a Bobo to somebody when they're a runner when they're seated, and also that if you're a seated runner, you better watch out for strange Bobo men coming up and handing you things. I
think whatever I was
vulnerable.
Yeah, whatever I was doing was not that common at the actual finish line of the race. It was total Times Square, Greenwich Village behavior. Times Square, there's people just trying to get you into comedy shows all day long, and mostly it's comedy shows. I don't know why that hustle works. I guess tourists, right?
Even around Empire State Building, handing you things, go up in the elevator.
That's true. There's those guys too. That's right.
My mom used to work here.
Yeah. Who do you think you're talking to?
Yeah.
We're very popular among former Empire State Building employees. I also know the winner of our recent community mile running event, light jog division. She used to work in the Empire State Building as well.
Whole lot of people worked in the Empire State Building and went on to win the inaugural Power Motion Picnic Hour community mile.
We got to see if
numerous divisions.
Yeah, no, we got to see if there's a way to target our advertising to former, not current, but former Empire State Building employees.
A good idea.
Yeah, I'll talk to the folks at Bobos about it.
Nothing else will take that away from this episode. But
exactly.
So I actually had a very similar, coincidental experience handing out Bobos to runners just this last weekend. Very different circumstances. There was only one runner in this race. But it was a gentleman, and we'll probably come back to this. We'll share more, maybe we'll teaser for a future episode. We'll share more about the actual event, but I'll just say it was somebody going for a local FKT, big one. Yeah. Fastest known time of the base circuit trail, a 230-mile string of like connected trails, but it's not all connected. Like some of it you have to link up with roads, but basically these different circuits of trails from the South Shore of Boston all the way around like to the north. So it passes through my main local running area, Knobscot, and I was kind of checking the times, and sure enough, like this runner was coming through like right around like one of my local trailheads at like 8 a.m. So I I quickly packed up actually the two junior apprentices, both of them, one without a jacket, the other without shoes, and was like, we're going, and like didn't really know what to expect. Like we grabbed a Bobos and like not a full bag of Tate's cookies, but like a half pack that was eaten with like 4 left in it. And we headed out. Yeah.
That's amazing. Just in case you make it down to the Tates. That's like an ultra marathon food.
Yeah, that's like, and this is sort of like an ultra event. So anyway, we show up at the trailhead, not really sure whether we're even going to see the runner, whether the runner will be alone, whether we're going to be like driving by the runner and waving and honking and saying like, go FKT. But we pull into the trailhead and it turns out like the whole crew is set up there. And so we got out and talked to them, and just like a super nice group of people. And then the runner came out, sat down in a chair, and that's when the junior apprentices knew. They went in with the Tates and the Bobos, and yeah, the runner grabbed them and said, thank you so much, and promptly handed them to the crew. But
throw this out for me, please.
But they were all super nice, and I think they genuinely appreciated a little support. And one of the crew members wrote a very nice mailbag later, just saying thanks so much. And runner was so excited and like gave him the burst of energy that he needed that morning. And so anyway, yeah, that was my step towards morphing this from a popular running podcast into just a large performance art piece where we just hand Bobos to various runners.
Exactly. Just an aspirational sponsorship performance that doesn't even need to be recorded or talked about. Yeah, it's good that we actually took pictures of. Did you have pictures? Because I had pictures of myself at the New York Marathon.
I do have a picture. One of the crew nicely took a photo of the apprentices and the runner, and also me. So yeah, happy to post that. And
I was gonna say
it might be a bit revealing in terms of the event, but anyway, we'll share more regardless. So,
yeah, you could redact information from it, treat it like it's like an FBI document, and just put little blackout things all over it. Yeah. So that's very little information. Like,
just don't Google base circuit FKT. Dear listener, don't do it.
Well, you could do it if you want, but it's just going to be more enjoyable if you let things happen the way the auteur intended it, and avoid spoilers.
Yeah, the only spoiler is that he would go on to get the FKT.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty big spoiler. Well, it's still exciting, even though we don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess that's the big reveal.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
I'm pretending not to know who you're talking about. I'm being the fish out of water stand-in for the listener.
So let's see.
One more thing to add to my exciting day out approaching strangers in Manhattan was I'd gotten home from a business trip late Friday. Like I landed at 11:15. Marathon was that Sunday, and I had to hop on the Amtrak at 5 p.m. that Sunday while the marathon was still going on.
Yeah.
Pretty quick turnaround in the city. But one thing I wisely did was, because I didn't exhaust my congratulation notes at the finish line. I still had a bunch left, even though I did exhaust my supply of Bobos, and those were gone. But I had more notes of congratulation than I did Bobos apple pie oat bites. So when I brought them to the train station, and I actually handed out a bunch at the Moynihan train hall at Penn Station, which was actually a better place to hand them out, because I love this, that people who'd run the race were still wearing their capes and medals, even though people were waiting for trains back to like DC or Boston or Long Island or wherever.
Of course.
But it was calmer there. And so everybody now was a few hours removed from finishing the race. Yeah. And there wasn't there were people there, of course, it's Penn Station, but it wasn't crazy like the finish line. And so they were calm and either with somebody or alone. And then when I went up to them just to make small talk, they were very welcoming. And those were actually better conversations about how well their race run, or pretty frequently how the plan went off the rails, which was always fun.
Yeah.
We love that here. And everybody, I think, at Penn Station was happy to take the note of congratulations and talk.
Well, I mean, at that point, they're no longer in the race, like in vicinity of the race itself. Most of the people around have not run the race.
Yeah.
They're clearly still like in the race mindset, psyched about it. So at that point, they're maybe a little bit more receptive to being congratulated.
You're saying they want people to come up to them and talk to them about the race.
Well, not necessarily saying they're fishing, but I'm saying they'd be more receptive to a stranger offering a congratulatory note.
How long do you think they wore the medal?
I hope the whole train ride back. Yeah, it's funny. I flew out of Logan the day after Boston once, and I was on a really early flight, and I got there and I get to the security line and it's like really long. And then I realized, like, because I saw a bunch of people just wearing the jackets, like, oh yeah, it's the day after Boston, and like I clearly can like identify a bunch of runners because that's what you do. You finish and then you get the jacket, I guess, and then you wear the jacket.
Yeah, I mean, people love wearing things that say they've done something cool. You know, this dog climbed Mount Washington.
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
Yeah, Gray Skull.
Yeah, this car climbed Mount Gray Skull.
yeah. But let's see. And I guess the last thing I had, just from a mailbag perspective, or I guess first and also last, is New York marathon related, which was the bird Wrinkle, that a duck that ran a half mile with a few stops.
I love Wrinkle, and I guess he's a regular runner, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he belongs at Mexico City, not New York, but
that's his home race. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying it doesn't sound like he ran the full 26.2, similar to like whatever it is, like 40% of the participants. Just get on a bus and then show up at the finish line.
Yeah, no, exactly. I still maintain he's fast for a duck, but you're right. He's a rule breaker and he should be punished accordingly.
Rule breaker.
Yeah,
I'd still be fine being bird of the year for the pod.
Bird of the year,
if it comes to that.
Have we given out this year's bird of the year? Have the nominations been announced yet? Do we think he's getting one?
I guess we can't just decide unilaterally. I guess we got to put it out to the community. I'd say there's Wrinkle, there's hummingbirds, and then there's the eastern bluebird.
That's a good bird. Some sort of warbler maybe should be on there.
Yeah, and some sort of warbler.
So far, that's the nominee. So yeah, dear listener, if you want to have any other birds considered, please write in before next week, because we're just picking one randomly next week and giving him the Power Motion Picnic Hour Bird of the Year award.
Yeah, it's down to these 4 plus whatever the community writes in.
In one of those rare slow running weeks where we don't feel like talking about the seasons, we're just going to start giving out awards to birds.
Yeah. And I think the other, I had an idea, because we've talked often about the bus stop ad, but I feel like logistics have worked against us. What if we offered an internship?
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Kind of like that Seinfeld episode where Kramer got Darren for Kramerica Incorporated. Feels about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, all this, I mean, not all, I guess you're supposed to sort of hype it up, but it would definitely have a heavy aspect of the role would be to procure the bus stop ad, locate a city, go through the, whatever motions are involved in such a thing, probably talk to us about what the design should be, and then ultimately, get it out there.
So how are we accepting applications for this internship position?
I'd say even just a simple mailbag sort of, submission is plenty.
Okay.
Feel free to send whatever qualifications, but
the job is probably yours if you ask for it.
As of right now, yeah, I'm not expecting a huge influx.
Oh no! All right, I like that. I think that's a great idea. We could use a little help, community.
We could use some help.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. And if not,
good resume builder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, worst case scenario, you got yourself a reference.
Yeah,
and a good reference is hard to come by.
It'll help with in the running world, future sponsors that you might be interested in, or that might be interested in you.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I thought of one more thing that I forgot. I follow some runners on Instagram, as many of us do. But
mhm.
one runner I follow is Maru Tafiri.
Okay.
And what I thought this was great. He came in sixth in the men's division in, in the New York Marathon. And after he came in sixth, he shared a picture of his finisher's medal. I thought that was great. He was like, "Here's my finisher medal for finishing." Um,
That's awesome.
I couldn't tell his tone exactly, but I thought that was a great move.
I think that's a great move.
Yeah,
No, just imply no tone, and it's an
yeah,
awesome move.
yeah. It's the same thing you would have done if you finished, 1,000 or
Yeah,
50,000. There were tons of people out there.
it's like Andy Warhol used to say, the Coca-Cola tastes the same unless you're one of the top three finishers in your division.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I almost get that reference, so that's good. I do remember the video of him eating a hamburger though, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed his film about the Empire State Building. If you've seen that one,
Oh, this is a very Empire State Building heavy episode. I don't know if I've seen that one.
well, it's like an 8 hour take of a stationary camera filming the Empire State Building, but at some point, like several hours into it, the lights turn on.
Nice.
It's a pretty great film.
Well, for what it's worth, I often don't understand some of your references, and in those cases, sometimes I'll just laugh.
Yeah, you can't be blamed, and it's safer just to go along with it, and you can figure it out later.
Sort of follow your emotional lead.
Yeah,
It's a somber reference. I'll sort of just go,
yeah, no,
yeah, yeah.
I've also
Tell me more, Dave.
I've learned some social skills myself as life has gone on. I've tried to improve not just my running, but also my interacting with other people. It helps in the special guest component, right? Like here at the Power Motion Picnic Hour, for instance.
It does. Yeah, our life skills have finally been put to good use here on this podcast.
You don't need them much when you're actually running.
No,
Not really.
podcasting about running, different story.
It's a whole different ball game when you're at the mic than it is when you're just running along the river. when you just with bananaless, or if you've had a banana even.
Yeah.
Just different on mic.
Hopefully, yeah, at least banana bread. But I guess that reminds me, I was definitely going to get back to running soon. And
Oh, good. That's what I was just going to ask you about.
Yeah, more to come on next episode to see whether that actually happens. But I'm pretty confident going to turn the corner here. And I think one thing that will help is planning a sort of very minor, low-key local event, which, by the way, you'd be welcome to come participate should the timing work out. Although the next few weeks are very busy, but
true.
Thinking sometime in December, there's going to be a local race, probably over at Knobscot. It's my main sort of favorite local place to run. Lots of options, and the idea was going to be to like sort of post up in. I think I know which spot is the right one to do it, although there's a couple options. And there would be like, I don't know. I mean, I was originally thinking there would be like a bucket with like some like little like chip or something at the top, and you grab one for each summit you do, and deposit it back at the base. But I think maybe the honor system will suffice for this one.
Yeah, it's more sustainable.
Although the problem that I see with the chips is somebody's got to get them to the top first, which requires a little bit of planning. But
where is Knobscot?
It sort of straddles Sudbury and Framingham, Massachusetts.
Oh, so okay, so it's real close to you.
Oh, it's real close. Yeah.
Okay, I had no idea where that was, but I do know where Sudbury and Framingham are. I'll just take Route 9 and start looking around.
Yeah. So I guess you and potentially the Gear Shed correspondent, coach friend, and one other friend who did partial WAPAC run earlier this year.
Friend who is yet to be nicknamed.
Friend who is yet to be nicknamed. Not a listener. I don't believe.
Oh, you don't. I don't think you get a nickname until you're a listener.
No. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so the idea is, some sort of point system, a point for each summit. I feel like there should be a chip. I feel like the physical aspect is important. And then, but it's also like, the beer mile.
Uh-huh.
So it's got sort of an aspect of there should be some ratio of like a beer is like a quarter chip.
You drink beer in this event?
Well, you can decide whether to do it or not.
Oh, okay. You get more points for drinking beer.
Well, it's a quarter chip. I feel like there's a very strategic element to this. Like, I think my plan, I'll reveal, at the risk of others stealing. I think I'd probably do like as many summits as I could until there was about, I don't know, 30 minutes left, and then maybe drink 4 beers to get another chip.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Or maybe do like as many summits as I can, and then the last like 5 minutes, just drink like a beer to get that quarter point differential.
When I ran the Providence Marathon, I put down 3 beers at the finish line pretty quick without getting rewarded anything for that.
I mean, and these could be Narragansett 12-ounce cans or, High Life. It could be something. It's not nothing crazy, or just, again, these rules are all fluid right now, but I'm just sort of structurally thinking it's going to be something like that.
I like it, and I'll try to come. I don't know how possible that'll be, of course, but after I get back from Europe, I have to go to Louisville.
It would be a time-bound event. So like we'd have to decide the time frame too. I'm guessing like 3 hours, 2 hours maybe.
It sounds fun. I'll try, but if
it's
not, maybe
loose.
It sounds very loose. I don't really understand the rules, but I've done 2 races in Providence. I've mentioned this, where they give you Narragansett. And so this is not that far from Providence.
No, it's not.
So, about an hour from Providence.
Narragansett could be appropriate. We could do something local to the Boston area.
I'll see if I can find some Narragansett in Paris. Maybe try to do it there.
Nice.
Do you think they have it?
No.
I was at I agree. Although,
if you find it, get a picture with it. But I'd say no.
I was in Berlin once. It was almost 20 years ago, and we went to the House of 100 Beers. And it was beers from all around the world, and a real exotic selection. This was 20 years ago, remember? So like the availability was different, right? Like back then, the best beer you could get was Anchor Steam and Sam Adams.
Newcastle Brown.
Yeah, Newcastle Brown was considered a fancy beer back then.
Yeah,
Honey Oat. Remember the beers that used to pass as serious back in the day? And one of the beers on the list of the 100 beers from around the world was a Miller High Life. And like, having come from America, flown out of Logan Airport, that was very funny, and definitely did not get one.
Nice. Well, so I don't know. I mean, while you're in Paris, while you're on this trip, maybe, put some thought into this race, because it's definitely not fully formed yet, but vaguely sort of thinking about a race concept for some time in the coming weeks.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll bring it up around the cafe scene in Montparnasse and see if any of the other expats have any thoughts about this kind of thing. I know they like to spend a lot of time thinking. If the books I've read about the subject are have any truth to them. And I guess that's going to have to be where we leave it for this week, because we are, as always, a nice tradition on this podcast, running out of time. One of our favorite slogans. So until next time,
onward. Special guest.
It's a nice, friendly Bobo man.
This is the Power Moment.